Well, I'm not gonna. I could go on about it forever, because as you say, there are so many things that it raises. But let's instead bring out in a moment a 6-time Oscar nominee, 3 times this year for producing, directing, and writing Tar. He is now. I should say that Tar is now one of only 4 films that have been recognized as the best film of the year by the New York, LA, London, those film critics groups, and the National Society of Film Critics. The other 3 ever, Schindler's List, LA Confidential, and The Social Network. Please welcome Todd Field.
Hi there. Wow. I've really enjoyed this talk a lot.
You had a little sleep, didn't you?
Yeah, good to see you. Wow. I have some prepared remarks tonight. It's kind of an incredible moment to be able to be in conversation with Cate, as it's always incredible to be in conversation with her. We met about, roughly 12 years ago. And when you sit with Cate and you're in dialogue with her, it changes you completely, forever. She truly is one of the great minds and hearts that you'll ever come across. And yes, there is a performative, element to this, as you guys are pointing out, the sort of Gopnik interview. But the truth is that who you're seeing up here and who you're hearing up here, that's Cate. While Cate is, Blanchett is many things, with accomplishments that would make Lydia Tarr pale by comparison. As a practical matter, let's just explore 4 of those things. Cate is an activist, a humanitarian, a working mother, and the best dressed woman in the world. As an activist, she joined former Vice President Al Gore's Climate Project and became the ambassador for the Australian Conservation Foundation, putting her superhuman efforts behind passing a carbon tax, something she received a whole lot of shit for. Particularly from Australia's hard right. Did this dissuade her? No fucking way. She doubled down and she continued the fight, continuing her work with Solar Aid to create sustainable market for photovoltaics, to bring clean renewables to places in Africa with no access to power other than fossil fuels. An urgent and vital benefit to communities that created new possibilities in other sectors, including healthcare and education, to lift up and exalt those who heretofore had no hope for a real future for either they or their families. And as a humanitarian, her work with the United Nations have brought a sense of awareness and action for the desperate need of aid for global refugees fleeing countries for acts of genocide. Cate's taken personal missions to bring attention to the issues faced by the displaced and disparaged people fleeing Syria. We're suffering so far now with these earthquakes that are going on in Myanmar. Her efforts in this aim were recognized at the World Economic Forum, where she addressed the United Nations Security Council about the atrocities committed against the Rohingya people, to this day one of the most persecuted minorities in the world. Now, as an artist, we've heard this discussion tonight, and where does one begin? You guys have spent a good deal of time talking about Cate's real love, which is the stage, and at the time, at the very height of her success as a film actor, for reasons that Cate has explained, she sort of stepped away to run the Sydney Theatre Company with Andrew Epton. They traded off acting and directing duties to build a cultural institution that filled a vacuum and championing First Nations and all manner of new work, commingling with classics of the canon like Chekhov and as Cate has talked about, Williams. Now, that production of A Streetcar Named Desire that was directed by Liv Ullmann traveled from Sydney to BAM and the Kennedy Center. It was a critical and commercial smash. Cate received universal acclaim for her performance as Blanche Dubois. The New York Times critic, Ben Brantley, said, "Miss Ullmann and Miss Blanchett have performed the play as if it had never been staged before, with the result that, as a friend of mine put it, you feel like you're hearing words you thought you knew pronounced correctly for the very first time." John Lahr of The New Yorker wrote, "With her alert mind, her informed heart, and her lithe patrician silhouette, Blanchett gets it right from the very first beat. I don't expect to see a better performance of this role in my lifetime." And Meryl Streep, upon leaving the theater, said, "That performance was as naked, as raw, and extraordinary, and astonishing, and surprising, and scary as anything I've ever seen. I thought I'd seen that play. I thought I knew all the lines by heart, because I've seen it so many times, but I'd never seen the play until I saw that performance." Now, at this point, Cate had been away from the screen for a very long time indeed, but Hollywood hadn't forgotten. They just kept calling. Finally, she answered. The filmmakers, many of whom have been discussed tonight, who've been lucky enough to have the opportunity to collaborate with her, read like a who's who of the greatest filmmakers of our time: Martin Scorsese, Woody Allen, Gillian Armstrong, Steven Spielberg, Ron Howard, Peter Jackson, Terrence Malick, Anthony Minghella, Todd Haynes, Jim Jarmusch, Bruce Beresford, Shekhar Kapoor, David Fincher, Steven Soderbergh, Adam McKay, Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro Inarritu, Guillermo del Toro. I'm going to stop there. Just to name but a lucky few. Yes, how lucky they all were. And how lucky I am. And how lucky the world is to live in a time where Cate Blanchett graces our stages and screens and walks the earth for our common good. John Lahr of The New Yorker got it right. Her informed heart. That is Cate Blanchett. And yes, she is one of the greatest actors who's ever lived. What a privilege and joy it is to introduce to you my friend and colleague and the recipient of the Outstanding Performer of the Year Award, the one and only Cate Blanchett.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Todd. Thank you. I won't bang on. You've heard enough and seen enough. But thank you so much, Todd. And And it really is lovely to be back in Santa Barbara, which is a place that is, it's a community so full of spirit and such a warm, loving, film-loving community. So thank you to the Santa Barbara Film Festival for the third time. Clearly a lot of people have said no. You go, you got me again. Thank you. For outstanding performance of the year, it's an honour in any year, but this year in particular, when there have been so many outstanding, idiosyncratic performances, memorable performances by women of wildly different shapes and sizes and artistic ambition, it's an honour indeed. So thank you so much. And thank you, Roger, and thank you, Scott, for the conversation. Thank you very much. And for the reminder that I have been in this industry for quite some time, which really is a genuine surprise to me that I've been able to pursue what I love. I mean, in a way, acting is a sort of a physical, visceral form of anthropology. You get to sort of excavate a character, a set of relationships, and the circumstances that they live in. It involves dance and theatre and costume, architecture, and random snatches of conversation, and they're all channeled into one form, and that is a form that I love so much, which is film. And the last 30 years, my passion in the film industry has been the craft of acting. And this passion has led me to seek out roles that can deepen and challenge that craft. And in doing so, you fail, and you fail, and you fail. And sometimes it works. And that is, you can do all the homework in the world, and the film can succeed, but it fails to reach an audience. And so I often think about what we decide is a successful film, what we decide is a successful performance. Is it one that wins awards like this? Or is it one that stands the test of time and people discover in 10 years' time? It's so sort of personal in a way. And so thank you for that painful... It's a very big way to look at yourself. I mean, you don't really ever get... Your phone just doesn't prepare you for that. So just, yeah. But it also, I think the gift, I'm a wonderful audience member, by the way. I love going to the theatre. I love going to live music and to dance and to the cinema, and just to forget who I am and to, with strangers in the dark, imagine somebody else's ambition. And I think often when we think about what people are trying to do there up on the big screen, it's important to remember, what are they trying to do, rather than, do I like it? Do I dislike it? I mean, these things aren't often useful assessments about what is actually people are trying to do up there. Maybe they're trying to do something to shift us into uncomfortable and different places, and that is certainly what Todd Field did for me and for audiences in Tar. And let's be frank, I do like being a little bit terrified, but it's only such roles that ask you to shift and change, and that are as startling and game-changing, and they are only as startling and game-changing as the stories they sit within. And they're determined by the dance partners that you are lucky enough to find yourself paired with. And they are also dependent upon the delicate dance that you find and make with a director. And I know how rare those collaborations are firsthand. And so I accept this honour 100 million trillion % in the name of the most generous, inspiring of collaborators that I have ever had the great good fortune to work with, and that is Todd Field. Because Tar consumed me whole and it spat me out, and I'm not quite sure where I am. But it shifted my sense of what is possible. And I think that's the thing about being terrified. I mean, in a safe environment, of course, but being creatively terrified, creatively confronted. You can go one of two ways. You can get defensive, or you can run towards the opportunity that presents you. And I think if you do that, whether it succeeds or whether it fails, you'll be changed by it. So thank you, Todd, for profoundly changing me in ways that I am yet to understand. And thank you to all those who set sail into the uncharted waters on SS Field. To mention a few, I mean, the cast, of course, and Hilda Gunnarsdottir, a wonderful composer, working with her on working out what Tar's composition was so important to understanding who the character was. To Monica Willi, who's one of the world's great editors, to Florian Hofmeister, our DP, to Marco Bittner-Rosner, who extraordinary production designer. We kept losing locations and he was endlessly inventive. To Bina Diagala, the costume designer who I worked with on Manifesto and Mrs. America, she's wonderful. And to the Dresden Philharmonic Orchestra, I cannot believe that I had the opportunity to make music with those, to play Mahler with them. Oh my God. Unbelievable. And thank you to the Santa Barbara Film Festival and to you, audiences, which is why we do this in the first place. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.